Well, our broadcast last Saturday didn't go quite as we expected. We had a number of technology issues with the online webinar software not working, then the new software having a limit of only 10 people, which we then had to increase, and then the microphones of some people weren't muted, so we had their voices unexpectedly and delightfully join into the live conversation. The two topics that we had planned to talk about were entitled When Things Fall Apart and Relaxing with Uncertainty. And we certainly had our fair share of things falling apart, and we also had plenty of opportunity to practice relaxing with uncertainty. But despite the technology difficulties, it was actually both a highly enjoyable and very rich conversation. So we now invite you to enjoy a recording of the conversation, what's and all. It starts off as we begin all our conversations with something that we're grateful for. And in this case, it's Kit's gratitude for the technology which has allowed her friend Dominic Barter to travel to visit with her. So here we go.
A friend of mine is here who lives thousands of miles away, and he's just going to sit in on our time together. And if it wasn't for the technology of airplanes, then that would also not be possible. So, hooray for technology and the fact of how often it actually does work. And here comes my friend who's going to be joining our call today. And I'm also grateful that he's with us today. You want to say something?
Hi, Kit. Hi, Thomas. Hi, everyone.
Anything you're grateful for?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, so much. I'm really grateful for being in a warm house on a cold day and for having warm food in my tummy. And for the fact that everybody is gathered here around this subject. I think as long as we're remembering what's important to us and creating the space to talk about it, then we're doing an essential part of the work we need to get realigned with how we want to live.
I hear that. I'm just noticing we're having more technology issues, which is always fun. We've got a lucky 10 people on the call, and I'm about to upgrade my plan on this free software to get more people able to join us. So I'll do that in the background.
Thank you, Thomas.
And whilst things continue to fall apart, I'll let you talk, Kit, about what's happening today and what we're going to talk about.
Well, one thing that I've practiced that I love is that when something happens that, especially when I don't like it, then it gives me such an opportunity to use my moral imagination to think about what it's like for other people. So, like right now, I'm doing that for you, Thomas. Like the pressure, of being able to create the space that you were really wanting to create for all these people, and it's not working out just the way you'd like, and I'm involved with that too. So it just helps me to have more compassion for other times when I've seen people scrambling, really wanting things to go in a certain way, and it doesn't. And anything that opens me up to using my moral imagination and getting softer, less harsh. We had an event here in Rochester last night, and a woman came up to me at the end who had actually quite an upsetting conversation with someone, accidentally, if you will. And she really didn't like how she handled it. And, we talked about afterwards, like, after, I gave her an ear for a few minutes, kind of what did she get out of the experience? Because sometimes these, kind of rough experiences, even the ones that only last for a couple minutes, are unfortunately the ones that we get a lot out of. And she talked about that she so wished she had known how to take power in the moment, and she just didn't know how to do it. And she wished she had. So we sort of did like a little chance to like practice. If she'd known what to say, what would it have been? And then also like a moment to be like in awareness for all the people in the world who often don't have power, don't know how to use power, and how often that happens and what it's like to live with that. So she ended up actually really being glad that it happened, even though she still wouldn't have chosen it. So when difficult things happen, that's just like the great thing that we can do with every difficulty in our life, like the little ones that we're having right now, or the really big ones. That's a thing that we can do. What do you think about this?
I think that the more we create spaces for support, so that when something happens which is not as I planned and which is not I'm enjoying, it's not something that increases my isolation from the world, but something that that can actually become a bridge for connection with other people, then something really interesting happens, because I start not to fear when things don't go well. What I'm looking out for is when my support systems are insufficient, when I'm undernourished, for having the kind of company that will enable me to experience something that I find uncomfortable and gain from that an even greater sense of what it is that we all share. So what I love about what happened last night is that she had someone to turn to, and that she had someone who was there to stand with her in that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So even though this isn't the most comfortable way to learn about how to recover the systems of support that I think human beings have often had in the more challenging moments in our history, I'm so pleased that we're relearning how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dom.
I think go ahead, Tom.
Oh no, I was just going to make a comment that when Kit and I were talking yesterday, Kit commented that she said that you're the Prince of Uncertainty, or the Prince of Relaxing with Uncertainty. I think it actually was.
I'm going to make him a little crown later today.
How funny.
Yeah. Well, like uncertainty and complexity are so connected to each other, like, and one of the ways in which I often see people use force is they try to make a complex problem simple.
Mm-hmm.
And that often has painful, disastrous consequences, both, I think internally, interpersonally, certainly systemically. So this whole question about complexity and uncertainty, they're so juicy. And I know I've spoken earlier in this webinar about, permaculture as a design process. Like I had a good time over the holidays reading this wonderful book called The Permaculture City. And, in his reflections on, complex adaptive systems and how we can design for complexity, because that is how nature designs. Any tree in your backyard, especially if it's living in a community setting, not all trees actually have a community. Many of them, unfortunately, don't now, but especially when trees themselves are experiencing community, experiencing support, they are capable of doing literally hundreds of functions, any certain one tree. So, but we, like with our little capacity to relate, we're often doing many things at the same time too, but although we may not be aware of it. So how do we really, relate to complexity and relate to uncertainty, I think is a critical skill for us moving forward. How are you doing with your complexity and uncertainty on your end, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm going to do one other crazy step into the uncertain with you all.
Okay.
Is everyone excited?
I'm always excited when I'm with you. That's just a given.
So here's what we're going to do. I just upgraded my account so we can get more than 10 of us on the call. Thanks for recording the whole thing so we can edit all this fun bit out, or maybe leave it in. Anyway, I'm going to send everyone a link now to a new meeting link, and that'll allow us all to join in multiple. So I'm hopefully going to just Skype chat that to you all, and then that'll work. But
do we need to switch to a new? Switch to a new?
We're going to be on Join Me still. We're going to be on Join Me still. But I'm going to expect an email in about 30 a minute. So think about uncertainty and how you're feeling right now about it all, and we'll be joining you again on Join Me in moments. So thank you all for your patience today. We'll speak to you in a minute. So I'll hang up this call and we'll start a new one. And I'll send an email.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. We're having uncertainty together.
Speak to you soon. Exit. Okay.
Accidentally put me on video.
Hey, Kit.
Hi, darling. What should we do?
I've just sent you an email, and I'll Skype you a link now so you can join in.
Okay. Are you having fun?
You know,
No.
I'm not having fun. I'm having an interesting time.
This couldn't be happening at a better time, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I couldn't care less. And we're talking about uncertainty anyway. So this is hilarious and wonderful. Plus dancing. So this is super.
Okay, good. Well, I'm recording the whole thing anyway, so if people don't, if people miss out on the call, then we've got a recording in perpetuity. So let me. I just sent you computer audio. I just sent you a link, I think, on Skype. Okay. So that's a new one. So try.
The conference will begin when the next party joins.
Okay.
Okay.
When the next party joins. Did you get that link?
It says, "Join me, love to ride." Locked meeting in progress.
Locked meeting.
Yeah. So I'm putting my name in, and then I'm putting join.
Unlocked meeting.
And then it says entry denied. Nope. How are you doing the conference? I'm on my computer.
Everyone is muted.
The conference is now in presentation mode. Okay. The conference is now in conversation mode.
Okay. Good. Kit,
you will now be placed into the conference.
Oh, right.
Oh, you guys have a bit of echo there. Maybe turn your volume down. Maybe turn your volume down a little bit.
Okay, I'm gonna jump off Skype so you don't get the echo.
Kit, that's what it was.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yep.
And we have people joining us who have hung in here so patiently and wonderfully, coping amazingly with the uncertainty. Well, let's continue talking while more people join the call. Does anyone want to start with anything about uncertainty?
Well, we were just speaking a little bit about, uncertainty and the gifts of uncertainty and how it relates to complexity. And I was speaking a little bit about, how my fascination about the natural world, and the more I'm learning about it, the more I get how complex natural designs actually truly are. So, I love that this is happening today. I have compassion for everyone who's not having fun, and what a wonderful opportunity for us to be like experiencing what it's like, especially in such a frankly low stakes way. For one, we're juggling with uncertainty, like what arises in us, the anxiety, the irritation, the frustration. It's not going how we want. We want ease. We want We want flow, and it's not happening again. So here we are, just being with that. So I'm just always, kind of interested in these experiences. Because as I said earlier, with the woman I spoke with last night, unfortunately, some of the trickier experiences are the ones where we tend to have to get the most learning from. So, what do you think, Paolo?
I think that there's a taste for complexity that we can learn how to appreciate, and what's tricky is the distance between the place that I most like to be, whether I'm very much living in the expectation that I'll make plans and the plans will happen as I imagine them to. The distance between that and what actually happens. So the lovely old Dutch saying that I like very much. In Holland, they say, "Don't fret; it'll happen differently anyway." And I find that very reassuring, because it's a reminder that discomfort that I'm feeling is about those expectations not coming true. And I think that discomfort can be very disruptive to us when we're unused to complexity. But after a while, it can become almost like just another feedback mechanism between us and the world, where we notice that, we're being invited to adapt, to shift, to live in that creative space, in that space of innovation and possibility. And what I so admire about that is that for that we're being invited back to observation. So being invited back into our ability to receive the world as it currently is, and to distinguish that from all our imaginings of how it could be. So yeah, there's discomfort, but I don't mind the discomfort anymore.
I like that, the idea that there's a taste for uncertainty. I can really relate to that. And I've thought a lot about it, really, in terms of also class privilege. Because I think when you have class privilege, you can minimize uncertainty. If you have class privilege, you know where your next meal is coming from. You have a fairly high, degree of predictability that you can get in your car and get to your next appointment. If your health breaks down, you can call and get medical care that you need for yourself or a family member. So, like, one of the things that's interesting, is how class privilege relates to uncertainty. And I'm just curious to hear any thoughts you have on that.
Well, I'm wondering if that's one of the reasons why class privilege is also associated with mental disease and lack of well-being psychologically for many people, because that privilege allows me to be able to plan things and have expectations that my expectations will be realized, will come true, and that takes me further away from the need to be observing what's actually occurring. And when I'm more divorced from observing what's actually happening, my body is with actuality. It's disconnected from the present moment. So,
which is like, I always think of that's the place where absolute and relative reality reconcile. It's right in there. Yep. And my husband says it far more wonderfully when he says, "Look, if your mind is fixed on the past and your ideas are on the future, then you're basically pissing on the present. If you have one foot in the past, the future, you're pissing on the present." Isn't that a pretty picture?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So here we are, enjoying the complexity, enjoying the uncertainty, which most is managing from beautiful Wellington, New Zealand. Thank you again, Thomas. And just curious to hear other people's thoughts or, ideas about some of the stuff we're talking about. This is pretty relevant, I suspect, to every human.
Yes, it is. And Kit, before we hear from some folks, I think with this bit of software, we're actually in a giant room. Like, unless you've got your microphone muted, so you might see on the Join Me software on the whatever you see, a little microphone icon, and you can click that to mute or unmute. But I'm pretty sure we're in a big giant room right now, and which is really interesting to me right now. Maybe if we could all just say hello, then we might realize how many people have got the mic muted or unmuted. Hello? Maybe everyone's got the mic muted. That's good. I think a few people didn't have the mic muted, but that's okay. But has anyone got any? Would anyone like to type in or even unmute their mic and say a word or two about their experiences of uncertainty?
I hear someone typing.
I hear someone typing also.
Can you, Louisa Davis here?
Louise, we can hear you.
Oh, sweet. Hi.
Yeah. How's it going?
Hi.
It's I am definitely holding all the complications with awareness that I'm not as soft as I'd like to be, but happiness to be able to imagine actually sinking right now into softness with you all. I guess it's acceptance and also just appreciation of connection.
Yeah, complexity and uncertainty feels so much different when there's company.
Mm-hmm.
Even when there's just someone who can look at you and not say anything, but you're not by yourself. Suddenly, the idea of it is more kind of, wow, this is an interesting puzzle, rather than this is an overwhelming thing that brings up all my worst fears about myself and the world.
Mm.
And because when we hold that puzzle together, we reaffirm that sense of connectedness between us.
Mm.
There's oddly something very sweet in going through something very difficult together with someone else.
Mm. Mm.
I wonder if we learn more from complexity and uncertainty when we have company than when we're on our own with it. I don't know. I'll have to start paying attention to that. I think I do. I think I might.
What's coming up for me, if I might just add a different or a thread here, is from the world of pastoral counseling. I was always invited by Rabbi Ed Friedman to be a non-anxious presence whenever there's anxiety in a church or family system. And I'm holding this with the complexity with you all right now, and Kit's invitation to softness. I'm really connecting deeply that being with quality of softness keeps our mind open, and we can learn and be and take in so much more than what can come in when we're tight and fearful and closed.
Yeah, not a lot comes into me when I'm tight and fearful other than judgments of myself and other people. That's
Exactly.
My channels get pretty narrow and pretty rigid and pretty impermeable. Whereas if I have a company, especially, but even if I'm by myself and able to maintain that relaxed presence, then I'm looking for clues in the environment. What are the possibilities here? And then I'm more connected to trust that there's something unfolding here, that if I can be faithful to that emergence, then something really might happen that's important, beautiful, even if it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just continuing to be curious to hear from other people, either the ones sending their questions to Thomas or speaking in this big room we're in today.
How do you you can type a message there.
No. You can type a message there, my friend. But we can hear you asking if you can type a message, so you could ask if you like, or you can type it in.
Is that you, Q?
I don't know, is it? Am I on
I know. Hi.
We can hear you.
Hi, sweetie.
Oh my god, has that been all the time?
Hi, you guys.
It was lucky we didn't say all our judgments about everyone, wasn't it?
I don't know, was it?
was such an opportunity.
Oh, it's Dominic there as well.
Oh my God.
Oi, Thalita.
Oi! Meu Deus! Let's talk in Portuguese now, Dominic.
Eu tava te ouvindo, sussurrando alguns minutos atrás.
What a nice way to introduce uncertainty for everybody that doesn't speak Portuguese.
Okay, so everybody's hearing us? What's going on?
Yes, if your mic is not muted, by the way, this is to everybody, then we can hear you making a cup of tea or whatever you're doing. So if you don't want us to hear you,
or cursing everyone else on the call.
or cursing everyone else on the call, yes, all these things. So just if you can't see your where your little mute button is, let me know and I'll help you find it. But otherwise, if you want to talk then or ask a question, you can unmute your mic and you can ask away. So if you have a question, Q, by all means.
Maybe we should first learn the important step of how to mute our microphone.
First things first. Good man. Well, there should be a little microphone type button, and if you click that now, it should go red.
Oh, I got it. It's at the top, right?
Yes, it should go red with a little cross through it.
Oh.
Okay, we've just learned something today.
Oh,
Thank you.
the first of many.
Finally.
I hope. Yeah.
We're still on the basic level, like, you know, the basic stuff. You guys are like flying into the edges of consciousness, and we're just like trying to know how to turn this microphone off. I think I'm gonna mute the microphone now and listen to something a bit more sane than us.
Please.
Happy New Year.
Love you.
Well, this is
Well,
fun.
so fun. What else are we gonna do? Do you know how much fun uncertainty and complexity can be when you have company? This whole thing was a setup.
Yes, yeah, of course it was. Yeah, that's right. Setup, big time setup.
That's right.
Days of rehearsal went into this.
That's right.
Thomas and Kit working really hard to create this experience for you all.
Exactly. And only the 16 people who've made it through all the hoops get the benefit of the fun. I wonder how this will play as a recording later.
Yeah, me too.
And sincerely, I would love to hear from other people who are joining on the call right now. What else, Jen, seriously, on the topic do you want to talk about? Because we've got time here.
And I think at some point, Kit, it would be really interesting to hear from you and Dom about the quote unquote when things fall apart, and you know, looking at relationships and uncertainty and commitments and all that kind of good stuff that we had a brief chat about on the phone yesterday.
Yeah. So we could speak to that. But I was saying to Don yesterday, he's here for a visit for a few days. That, you know, there's been a couple of times in our relationship in the last years where we've kind of fallen apart for different reasons, and we patched it up again in a way that for me makes the connection more precious, even than when it was fine and when I could take it for granted. And so we were just speaking a little bit about the importance of having trust that when a relationship isn't going the way you want it to, that you can trust that if you keep hanging in there or you put the time on it or whatever, that things can get better, and that matters, rather than just doing the cutoff or just assuming it's over. There's nothing that can be done. I don't know. What do you want to say about that?
I was just wondering in relation to that about the things that fall apart, because it's things that fall apart, but not the essential. So there's something about those moments where everything is crumbling. That was very much my experience of 2016, and I think it was for many people. But a lot of the things that we identify with, or that we hold on or expect to continue, didn't continue. And in relation to those moments where you and me didn't know where we were in relation to each other anymore, there's this huge imperative to come back to the absolute basis and to question everything. And that is incredibly clarifying and liberating in a strange way. And again, then we come back to where is the company that allows that experience to be positively liberating rather than just completely agonizing and disorienting.
And or that builds on our narrative that we're essentially alone in the world.
Right.
The world is an unfriendly place.
Yeah, because there's nothing like finding that there are people with you at times.
I'll come with you, man.
The company when everything's flowing well is just a delight.
We're not coming back home. We're going right directly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can everyone just double make sure that their microphone is muted?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not going to dad? You're going to dad's now?
Oh, it's, and then we have.
Okay.
Kit, what viewer? Okay, I'm gonna do something special. Hold on.
The conference is now in presentation mode.
Oh. Okay. I'm gonna change this back.
The conference is now in conversation mode.
All right,
You
Kit.
are unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I
here.
tried to mute everyone and just unmute you, but it didn't work very well. So just layers of uncertainty, guys. Just layers upon layers.
I know, it's fabulous.
I just loved how me and Kit's laughter at that moment illustrated everything we've been saying here.
Sorry, Kit, please continue.
Yeah. So so what it's like when things fall apart, and for me, I think the one thing that worked well for me when you and I were talking was that I didn't take it personally, because it wasn't that I didn't trust the care. What I knew was that there wasn't the capacity, but it didn't mean it was forever.
Right.
And that's been one of the most important kind of lessons for me in being able to be in relationship with people over years, whether the relationship I judge it as working well or judging not well, is that I always have the two words at the end of the sentence, for now. So for now, or it's not working right well or very well for now, but that's only now. So it helps me to not, get into this sort of draconian either or, black and white, cut off mode. That for me doesn't respect the organic, dynamic aspect of life within me, within others, within the world. So whether that and how that, plays out in my connections, even with someone who I love as much as Dom, relates to hanging in, keeping the faith, and not knowing. It's a lot of uncertainty sometimes, even with the people that you're closest to. And that can keep things pretty juicy and alive too.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about how that renovates the root of what it is that connects people.
Renovates the root.
Yeah.
Nice phrase. Well, yeah. So that was that's a little bit of what we've been talking about as we've been hanging around together after actually a couple of years of not seeing each other.
Yeah.
Which didn't have to do with being disconnected. It more has to do with living 5,000 miles apart and no one have extra money in their bank account sitting around, or weeks of the year for that matter. So yeah, curious to hear people's thoughts on this.
So once
thoughts
again,
or texts or whatever.
Yes, once again, feel free to type in. There should be a little wee speech bubble. If you hover over it, it says chat.
Yeah.
you can click on that and type a message.
What's coming up for you, Thomas?
Oh, a few things I was thinking. I mean, I love this idea of for now. I've always liked that. Little things that you can add, like yet. I often use the word yet, like, oh, I'm not very good at that yet, you know. Just reminding myself that, you know, things can change and nothing's really forever. And I think in this context, you know, if you're having a tough time with someone, just, you know, just keep in mind that it's just for now. So I was reflecting on that and the importance of doing that and just changing your language there a little bit to help change your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a relationship between silence and stopping and uncertainty that I also really value. When we're willing to pause in a place of unknowing, then there's an invitation for a certain kind of slowing down with the business of creating expectations and then trying to make them come true. And I think particularly at a moment where socially there's a lot of business going on, and our references from the past are much less useful than they might have been in other times in history. And we're really seeking paths that are direct responses to what we're living through together, and not references to the things that are stored in our memory. And it's particularly valuable for us to create spaces in our day where we pause the stream of thoughts and the presumptions about our relationships and our activities that we're used to doing. And those can be seen as little moments for us to not just meditate on uncertainty, but reacquaint ourselves with uncertainty as being something that the place that we come from, really, as animals, and somewhere where the extraordinary development of our society sometimes distracts us from. We forget that that's where we come from. Like it's part of our inner forest, and that we've actually spent vast majority of our time in that environment, and only fairly recently have we got used to the idea that we can somehow diminish uncertainty.
I'd also like to just, I always love to have people think about their lives in fresh ways if I can. And, many of us have had circumstances in our lives where there was a lot of uncertainty or challenge or difficulty. And to know that you can get through that and that you're still here. That's like an important thing I want people to remember, because what are the things that you already know about this topic? When I think about social justice and how it relates to all this, the book that I referenced a couple weeks ago that I was reading recently was by Angela Davis. She talks about how there are not many struggles, there's one struggle. And then she references Dr. King talking about justice as indivisible. And I think in order for us to be able to deal with the complexity that justice is not divisible, that there are not many struggles, that there's one struggle, that one of the ways that we can sort of enter into the practice of that in our own life is to be able to relax with uncertainty and then learn what we can about complexity as much as we can. So I think that those are some of the most important tools that we can, take with us into the future, whatever that future is going to hold for all of us.
I think this idea that uncertainty is a natural state, and that as humans and animals going back in our evolution and our history, that for large parts of our development we probably dealt with a relatively high degree of uncertainty. I think we've probably found it uncomfortable. I don't know why we've kind of probably sought to minimize the level of uncertainty. Maybe it was some kind of survival trait, but I'm not entirely sure about that. But I find it interesting to think that we're naturally equipped to deal with uncertainty, and perhaps through cultural evolution or the media or whatever's happened, that we've found, or some of us have certainly found, that uncertainty is quite unsettling or feels very dangerous, as opposed to just being with it and maybe using it as a signal for something and just taking it as one of your sensory inputs. Oh, there's uncertainty right now. Okay, thanks. Got it. It's interesting to think about that as a thought.
Hmm. I don't know how many people had a chance to take a look at my cliff notes yet from Thinking Fast and Slow, but if you have a minute that Thomas sent out before the holidays, but if you do have a minute to look at them, our brain does not like uncertainty. Our brains are pretty hardwired to strongly prefer clarity and certainty. That's why it does, such helpful things like confirmation bias, which is, we have a story in our mind about something, and then literally our brain will helpfully only point our attention towards the information that will confirm our narrative, for instance. So I also want to be compassionate that in some respects, this is us sort of having to push back against, some of the older structures of our brain that are now not so well adapted to, life on planet Earth. So if it's challenging for you to have this, or there's a reaction inside of you not enjoying it, I just always want to invite mercy for that too. There's good reasons for it. Both your cultural and social conditioning, as well as your brain, might be saying, no, I need, the last thing I need is to go for uncertainty, in this world with so many difficult things going on. So I just want to really acknowledge that this isn't the easiest path, but it's a rich one in my limited experience. I'm just taking a look at the time and curious to hear any thoughts from anybody. What this dynamic 60 minutes or dynamic 57 minutes has been like for you. Anything that you would like to say?
It says here that Angela Davis practices veganism. I have an ongoing challenge, tension, trouble, morally resting regarding the issue of veganism. Would love to find a way to attend to this outside this call. Interesting.
Thomas, I'm sad to say that more uncertainty has emerged, and your voice is being super cut off when you speak right now. So I'm catching about half your words.
Wow.
So I heard that something about Angela Davis is a vegan, and that I have a moral problem with, but I didn't catch the rest of it.
Sure. How many of are you getting the good half or the bad half of my words right now? No half?
Not catching anything now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wing it.
Isn't this
wing
great?
It. Just wing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll wing it and just thank Thomas and thank all of you for going on a little ride with us today.
An
experiential ride of just, being with uncertainty. And I'm sorry that there wasn't a bit more time for us to do the debrief in terms of relationship and challenges. But we talked about it yesterday, and we said, I want to, even as two people that think a lot about relationships and, think a lot about stuff like nonviolent communication, that doesn't mean that things are perfect. And I just want to just put that out and be open in the company of my friend here, this rare, precious in-person company, just to be able to talk about it. So I'm connected with a little bit of mourning that in terms of that aspect of the day. But other than that, it was fun. What do you want to say as close?
I'm also appreciative that people were willing to flow with this and enjoying how it illustrated what we were saying as we were saying it. And again, like I said at the beginning, it's very precious for me that we are creating these spaces where we just sit down with these huge dilemmas and look at them without the expectation to magically solve anything, but being willing to look at an aspect of our living together that perhaps our culture hasn't encouraged us and supported us to do so much, and we're rediscovering how to do it. And uncertainty and what happens when the things that we rely on are no longer there is such an essential aspect of developing the resilience to persist in this journey of finding a way to include and care for each other as we live. So I'm grateful for everyone who's willing to spend this time doing this, either right now or perhaps you're listening on YouTube later on because you didn't manage to find this way on the call.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks, Kid, and thanks, Dom. Speak to you all soon.
Thanks again.